I love thinking about this story and how a real chance interaction changed the entire course of everything I was going to do for the entirety of my life. I was dialed in for a legal profession since as long as I can remember, 12, 13 years old. He said, "Are you smart?" I thought, okay, this is really strange. And I looked at him a little bit dumbfounded, and I said, "No."
I'm Dr. Scott Law, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Smile Doctors Off Mute podcast. Dan, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. We've known each other for a long time, maybe back when you were still in residency. We met for the first time. We can talk about that a little bit later, but I am pumped for people to get to know you on a broader, deeper level. And so really excited to explore what makes Dan Keith. So everybody, please welcome Dr. Dan Keith to the Smile Doctors Off Mute podcast today. Dan, tell us a little bit about you, what you love doing, kind of some of your interests, and then I'd love to get into the background of what got you started on this path.
Well, Scott, first of all, thank you. Super excited to be joining you. I've been a big fan of the podcast for the last couple of years and just excited to be here and talk a little bit of everything personal and professional with you today. But my background is born and raised in North Dakota, and I practice here in my hometown of Bismarck, North Dakota, which was a dream of mine always to be able to come home. But I grew up in the Northern Plains in the cold of North Dakota, and one of those rare birds that decided to never leave up here other than going away for school. But yeah, I've got my beautiful wife, Jenna, of almost 6 years, and I've got a daughter who is 9-year-old, that's Brinley, and then a just turned 4-year-old Indiana, and a recently turned 1-year-old Lennox. So 2 girls and a boy that keep me very busy. They are figure skaters, and my little guy, I'm a lifelong tennis guy. I've played in high school, college, almost every day of my life since I was 10 through college. So they're required to be tennis players no matter what their interests are. But chasing kids and chasing the dream of building an orthodontic practice, and excited to be with you to explore it more today.
Love it. That's awesome. Family's the best, and it's really what drives us to do what we do. So I love that. Okay, so you didn't start off wanting to be in the medical profession or dental profession at all. You had other thoughts for what your future looked like. Is that right?
That's right. So my path was a little bit interesting in that I was, believe it or not, set to become or wanted to become an attorney my entire life. And what the impetus is, I can't even say, because I didn't grow up in a family of attorneys or even anything towards the sort. But I can remember growing up in my grandparents' home when I can even remember the days of being 2 and 3, watching the news. It was Connie Chung in the news every night, and we watched those things. And I think I was a product of watching A Few Good Men or The Firm way too many times of childhood, and seeing the glory of the courtroom, and always wanting to chase that. But I was dialed in for a legal profession since as long as I can remember, 12, 13 years old, and in high school in criminal law class and doing mock trials. And in college, I was actually a finance and political science major, and I was really trying to do everything I could to set myself up for that path. I was interning for a United States Senator. I was interning in the North Dakota Supreme Court, and just thought that was the path I was going to be on. Where that was going to lead me in the country, I didn't know, but just knew that I was solely focused towards everything was towards the LSAT and a legal profession. So to be here today and to be doing what I'm doing is, even I have to pinch myself once in a while and say, how in the heck did I wind up here in orthodontics?
I agree with you. I think I've met a lot of attorneys, a lot of medical doctors, and certainly a lot of orthodontists. And I can say, I don't know that I've ever heard an orthodontist say, I wish I hadn't gone to the ortho route. We all love it. It is the best profession in the world. And so, yeah, but I have heard quite a few attorneys say, don't go to law school. Don't do this. I don't like what I do. So I'm happy we are where we are. I pinch myself alongside you. This is just a dream come true to do what we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So you were going legal route. You were all geared up for that. And then at what point did that pivot? Tell us about that story. I'm familiar with it. And so I love it when you tell this story. Please share with us.
Right. So I always love telling this story, and I like thinking about it because it was such a pivotal point in my life, and dealing with all ages, of course, as an orthodontist, but primarily that teenage years where they're starting to think about their future and life and the next 10 years of their life. And so I love thinking about this story and how a real chance interaction changed the entire course of everything I was going to do for the entirety of my life. And I was 21 at the time. I was a junior in college. I was playing Division II tennis. I was, like I said, a finance and political science major. And on my way to law school, taking the LSAT, and was literally all that was left was to go to law school. And I had never had orthodontics as a youngster. Didn't grow up in a family of dentists or anything like that. So when I got to college and I was 6 months away from law school, I decided I just really wanted my front teeth a little bit straighter. They're never bad, and nothing that my parents ever addressed. But so I'm going to go see the local orthodontist and see if he can fix this before I go to law school. So I went in, got braces, didn't know the orthodontist, had actually taught tennis to his kids. I've been teaching tennis since I was about 12. So I knew the family, but no relationship with him whatsoever. And I kid you not, I was in there the second appointment in the chair, got the teeth adjusted. And the assistant said to me, she said, "Hey, the doctor would like to see you back in his office." So immediately I get this gut wrenching feeling in my stomach, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
Mom, Dad, did you guys not pay the bill on this one? Or was I not wearing my
Right.
rubber bands? Or what was the story? So I go back there and I sit down, and the orthodontist comes in, and it's kind of like your teacher, calling you in after school one day.
Right.
And no, even though I was a grown adult at this point, basically 21 years old. And I said to myself, okay, what's going on? And he walks in and he said, tell me about yourself. Who are you? And I said, well, I'm a junior in college and majoring in political science. I'm heading to law school next. And I said, I actually know you have taught your kids tennis a little bit. And he said, yeah, I did a little research on you, and I heard a little about you. And the next words were ones that I'll never forget. The conversation went directly this way. No more pleasantries. He said, "Are you smart?" I thought, okay, this is really strange. But I said, "Are you smart?" And I looked at him a little bit dumbfounded, and I said, "No." And he said, "No." And I said, "No, I'm not smart at all." He said, "But somebody told me you were on your way to law school." And I said, "Well, that's true." But I said, "But I'm not smart." I said, "I've just worked very hard. Since the age of 10, I was coaching tennis. I got dropped off in the morning at the indoor tennis courts. My parents picked me up at night. I did my homework between hitting sessions, played with anybody who came through that door, because whatever I did, I always wanted to strive to be the best. Wasn't the best, but wanted to do everything I could in working hard. And that was ingrained in me early." And I said, so I just worked really hard to get to this point that I'm really excited about. And then the next words that he said were that he said, this would be ridiculous if you became a lawyer. He said, "You should be an orthodontist." I said, "Orthodontist?" I said, "I haven't taken a science class since I was about 14 years old in freshman biology in high school." So I said, "Orthodontist?" And he said, "Hear me out." He said, "Hear me out." He said, "I've heard about you. I know you're doing this, that, and the other. And my team has said that you interact with them better than any patient they see come through here." And he said, our whole profession is interacting with people. And he said, "Man, if you were reading and writing," he said, "I'm sure you're great at that. But he said, I think you would be missing this talent that I can already tell you have." And so, long story short, I said to him, we went to lunch the next day, and I said, "Okay, here's what I'll do." I said, I've really loved being in this office, even though I've only been here for a couple months. And I had plenty of friends who went through braces, and I saw what it did for them. I said, I would like to shadow you every waking moment I get for the next 6 months. And while I'm doing that, I'm even going to jump all in right away. And I'm going to keep my finance and poli-sci major, but I'm going to sign up for every science I can that's going to get me towards dental school in the next 18 months. And I said, we'll see. If it doesn't work out, or you find out that I'm not who you thought, or that I'm just not cut out for this and I can't pass freshman biology being a senior in all these classes with 18-year-olds, then no big deal. I'm going to defer law school for a year, so I have that in my back pocket, and I'll go down that route. And we spent every waking moment I spent in the office, And what I saw was love for people from that orthodontist, love for his team, and love for what the specialty of orthodontics does for people, because that gave me this feeling that I wasn't sure that I could get as an attorney. And that completely shifted everything I was going to do. And again, long story short, 10 years later, was an orthodontist back home in my hometown of Bismarck. So it was a really meaningful moment for me. And it led me to realize how powerful one person's influence can be over your life, and how important mentorship is in your life. Because if that orthodontist had been having a bad day, or had to get to his kid's baseball game that night, or anything like that, if those confluence of things had happened that day, he would never have called me back that day. Would have forgot about it the next time I'm in. I'd have been an attorney and probably living somewhere else in the country, and nothing that transpired in my life would have happened. So when we have kids come through the office to shadow it, as you have, Scott, hundreds of times to follow you, and it's tough. You're busy with patients, and they're over your shoulder and things like that. I always think back to that chance encounter, and if that guy hadn't taken those 5 minutes, my entire life would have been different. And I think, wow, what a power we have as people, not just as orthodontists, but we as people have to influence the lives of others. And I always encourage my staff, like, in whatever you're doing in life, when you get the chance to influence someone, take that opportunity, because you never know what it's going to mean to them. And to me, it meant the entire difference in finding my family and finding my life and finding my person.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, I get a flood of emotion every time I hear that, because I have had pivotal conversations as I was growing up with people who impressed me, that changed my path. I was going one direction and it shifted things for me. And so I owe so much to them, that they took the time to take an interest in me, just to notice where I was, and then, what potential that I had. And so I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to this orthodontist who impacted you to impact so many other people. So at the time when he brought you back, what was it that struck you? How did you feel when he said those words? Like, it must have resonated different than because you've been very practical on what you've done all the way through. What were the emotions you felt when he said that?
Well, absolutely. It was a little bit, I was a little bit taken back by it, but, guys that, like influence your lives, that you know about already, and you want to emulate them. And I knew he didn't know who I was before that, but, I knew who he was, and I knew all of the good he had done in the community. I saw his name all over this, that, and the other, and sports teams and church and different things like that. And I was just so taken back that, this guy that I viewed on such a pedestal as almost as definitely a community hero, took the time to have me back there. And that's what immediately got my wheels turning as whether it's an attorney or an orthodontist or anything, as the entrepreneurial nature in you the wheels start spinning, and like, okay, this guy's throwing out a challenge to me, and he's going to challenge every part of my being. But there's a reason that this conversation happened, and I need to at least explore why this conversation happened. I've always been a huge believer in that, in fate, in that things happen for a reason, and you're where you're supposed to be in life for a reason. And at that moment, our paths were meant to cross. Whether it meant becoming an orthodontist or not, I had no idea at that moment. But I knew that there was something there to what he told me, and my whole life before that point, to the age of 12, was about coaching tennis, playing tennis, and going to school. So I was used to giving lessons to 5-year-olds and 85-year-olds. So conversations about pop culture, about sports, about making relationships was every part of my being. And when he said, you can do that all day long for a career, I thought, okay, that is exactly where I need to be. But then the question in my mind was, is there any way I can actually pass these classes in college, get into dental school, get into orthodontics, and get to this point? So, but I was always a believer. Had no clue if it would happen,
Yeah.
but I knew I was going to work hard to make it happen. So it was excitement. It was trepidation because I was throwing everything I had thought about for a decade, but filled with pure excitement and
Yeah.
like you just said, I'm so grateful every day that he did that because I can't imagine my life down the other path.
Right, right. Oh, it's so great. So great for him to be in tune to other people and where they are. I mean, it is my favorite part of the profession. We are often put in a position where we're, maybe call it a pedestal, call it a position of influence, where people do look up to us, especially little guys, right? Who are highly impressionable and that are in our chair, or adults who they want the most vulnerable part of them. Often they're smile, they're laid back in a very vulnerable position in the chair. And so they have a lot of trust immediately. And I stress so much to doctors, take that chance. Take that opportunity given you to connect with people, because they will hear you different as long as you are genuine and you're true and you look them in the eyes and give them a sincere compliment, sincere high five, a sincere whatever it is, hug, whatever they need. And often it's a word of encouragement that makes all the difference. So that is so great. So how has it impacted you? So clearly you love working with people. You love being a bright light and influence on them. How does your practice day to day look with knowing this and the impressions others have made on you, how you can pay that forward?
Yeah, it was, it like I said, it changed everything. Not just about the professional trajectory of my life, but my personal life too. And when I finished orthodontic residency, my dream in life was always to move back to Bismarck, well, where I had grown up, and family was there and everything like that, and had lived everywhere. But I wanted to come back to my community. And when I came back and took the leap to open a practice, I served as an associate for my first couple years, and then in 2017 took the leap to open my practice. And I kid you not, I want to say the second or third patient that came into my practice became my future wife. She came toting a 9-month-old baby with her, and she needed a retainer. And I didn't know her. I met her that day for the first time. And fast forward life, that's my 9-year-old that's become my world in there. And so those are the things that I circle back to. I circle that back to that conversation. But when we started the practice, as you do, when you just started from nothing and found a place and said, hey, I'm going to make a go of it. I can remember I had about a 6-month span when I decided I was going to open my own practice. And as the practice was building up, and what do you see? All you see is debt. You see all the risk you're taking, and the bank saying, okay, I hope that you're going to make it. And you have to, you bet on yourself. And I remember telling someone this story once, and in that period of time, before we were starting, I went to every dental office in town, which was about 40 of them. And I put on a CE over their lunch hour about something related to orthodontics. And I took in lunch and was telling the story. I said I couldn't afford Jimmy John's at that point, so all I could afford was Walmart sandwiches in there. And but I went, beat the pavement, did everything I could to grind and try to make a go of it. And in those first couple of years where you're just getting going and you're waiting on patients, the biggest thing that meant more than anything to me in the practice was being able to give back to community. And that was something I saw from that orthodontist that first got me to this point. And so whether it was the town of 200 that had an archery team, or the 2,000 kids that were in hockey in Bismarck, I knew that anybody that came to me, whether we had any money or nothing, that we were going to give whatever we could to support each of those things in the community. And that's really become the mantra of our practice, because it's great. You want to do great work, of course, and we all strive to give great smiles every day and learn more and more each day. But ultimately, what I think we're all remembered for, not in orthodontics, but in whatever line of work or what you want to be remembered remembered for is, what did you do for your community? What did you do for your family?
Right.
And what did you do for the people that you live with? And seeing our orthodontic shirts or whatnot around town, that's what fuels me. Not from an ego standpoint, from a standpoint that knows that what we did within the four walls of the practice allows us to spread that love throughout the community. And at the end of the day, even more than trying to provide great smiles, that's what fuels me each day in this office. And it all harkens back to that drive that came when he said, "Are you smart?" I said, "Nope. Just going to try to outwork anyone that I can, or work as hard as I can to achieve life's dreams."
That is so great. I love it. It's just the outworking people philosophy. You're kind of like the good-hearted David Goggins. Like your motivations are such that, instead of being better than others or better than this, improving, you have kind of a chip on your shoulder about all this. It's like, no, I'm driven and motivated to outwork others and outwork myself of, what can I do? What's your philosophy on that? I've heard you talk some about how much you sleep, how many hours in the day. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So everyone asks, like, you must never sleep. And I think that there's a little bit of truth to that. And as with family, we pour so much into our practice lives, and orthodontics is wonderful, but it's exhausting because you have hundreds of patients every day, and you want to give everything you've got to every patient, from the first one we see at 6:50 in the morning to the last one we see at 4:45 in the afternoon. And you want to give all of yourself that. And the hardest part of practicing orthodontics, I mean, to me, at least that I've found, is there's always challenging cases and things like that. But the hardest part, and I fail at this every day, and I have to work on this every day. And I'm fortunate that I've got a very supportive wife, and that helps me try to work on these things, is that to be able to be present for your family after being so present for the patients in your practice for 10 hours, for whatever it is each day. And that's what drives me at night is like I said, I fail at that every night, and we try to get better and better with that. And that's what I think is the big challenges, but it's what pushes us. So when you get home and you want to be all there for your family, and we get them to bed, and we start thinking about the next day already with the practice, and you go to bed at 11 o'clock at night after you think you're ready for the day. And I'm up before 4 each morning, and we're trying to get my mind straight, working out early. I'm sending 100 emails because I know from in the workday, my focus is completely on the patients. But my philosophy, so I lack a little bit of sleep in there, but my philosophy still never left me from those early days, that if I can always outwork myself, then I'll never fail. And that was my mantra and my motto inside. It wasn't outwork the competitor, be better than the competitor. No, I've always felt anyone that is so lucky to be in the specialty of orthodontics got there because they're an amazing person. They wouldn't be there if they weren't very intelligent and have all the gifts in there. So it's about outworking yourself. And that's something that I hope that I can teach to my kids, and that they can see that, hey, Dad worked a lot, but he never stopped grinding for them, for the patients, but also for myself, because you've got to satisfy that internal itch to always be better. It's not to achieve more and to gain more. It's to be better, because at the end of the day, that's how it's just, at least I feel that you sustain a long practice career, is you got to have challenges ahead, and you got to push yourself. So that's what I always try to do each day. Some days better than others, some days easier than others in there. And that's why we never stop, because there's no such thing as a perfect day.
That's it. And it's always about progress, right? It's just how can we be better, whether that's practice life, home life, interpersonally, whatever that looks like. That's awesome. So you are the inaugural recipient of the Greg Goggins Keep On Chopping Award. And you were granted that award at the Smile Doctors Summit just for your grind and what you do. Walk us through, like, what does your day look like? So like your typical day? What do you do?
Right. So typical day, I'm up every morning at about 3:30 in the morning. By 3:45, I'm on the Peloton, and for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, but not like some of the crazies. I'm a little more of the comfort cruise type because I send all my emails, I get all my work prep done while I'm biking. But I think what is that I most prioritize during that time, and that I really, Scott, take a lot of pride in with our practice, is that I probably read 4 to 5 local newspapers every morning between 4 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. because when those patients come in, I want to be the guy that knows they had 7 assists and 12 points last night. If they're coming from a town of 75 and they're in Class D, which doesn't even exist here, in there, and or that they swam this or that they had that concert or whatnot, because that's what drives me. That patient knowing, like, wow, we're from 125 miles away, and he knew that we had a game last night, and so that is my passion. Those are what ultimately fuel me each and every day. So I'm up, researching and making sure I'm up to date on everything that happened the night before in our area. And really we're such a small state. It's everything in Western North Dakota that we see. So it's a lot of grinding, and it's a lot of reading, but it's so worth it. And I'm in the office every morning by 6 o'clock. The team's there 6:30, 6:45, and we start seeing patients. Usually we have them back by 6:50 in the morning, and grind all the way until 5 o'clock each day. But every day it's busy and it's exhausting. But I remember January 2nd of 2017 when we opened, and one employee, treatment coordinator, and watching Netflix, praying that the phone would ring. I think what a blessing to be able to have to get up at 3:30 in the morning to read 4 newspapers, to know about all of these patients, and just surrounded by a great team, here, and never stop working and never stop trying to be a better version of yourself in practice and in life each day. And so to kind of receive the Keep on Chopping award. I had no idea that was coming. I was sitting next to a fellow Smile Doctors, a doctor and who's become a great friend of mine. And we were just, it's the last award of the day. And Dr. G, who's just a amazing person in himself, as you know, and for all of us to emulate, and a guy that I've known very well since joining a couple years ago, because of how intimately involved he is in young practices in the Smile Doctors. And he's talking and he's telling about the ward, and then he makes a comment about, this guy's up at 3:30 in the morning, and I see the kid next to me whip his cell phone out and just start elbowing me. And he said, "That's you." And then it kind of hit me. And then he flashed a screenshot. I didn't even remember posting this. And as we talked about, North Dakota is the tundra up here, and it was 60 below zero on my vehicle, and that's temperature. That's not wind chill. And my car registered 60, and I had 7 amazing team members in the Yukon behind me, and we were driving to our satellite office. And North Dakota is atypical for most orthodontic offices, where their satellite is 7 miles away or 15 minutes. Our satellite office is 100 miles away, and that's the closest city to us. So I posted this, and I get a message. Dr. G and I have many 4:15 a.m. Conversations, because he's an early riser like that, talking about life or motivation or whatnot. And I posted it to our office Facebook at 5:30 in the morning, and said, "Dickinson, we're coming for you," and circled 60 below zero. And I get a message from Dr. Goggins, and he said, "Did you guys call and cancel patients today?" So I said, "Cancel patients?" I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, I saw your story. It said 60 below." I said, "Dr. G, 60 below just means that I had to pack a windbreaker today, and I'm not just in a long sleeve t-shirt going to work today." And he said, "You guys are amazing in there." And the team and all of us. And he said, is that really how North Dakota is? And I said, in North Dakota, 20 below zero is just the cutoff for recess for kids. So, and so all my Smile Doctors friends around the country, when they tell me, well, it's 40 degrees and it's raining today and the kids aren't going to school, I have to laugh and tell them, you guys will never make it up here.
Wow. No, seriously. I know when it gets like, it's so bad, but where I live in Central Texas, if it gets below freezing and there's a slight chance of rain or anything like that, oh, school's canceled. and I know people just roll their eyes like, what in the world? And we all shrug our shoulders like, oh, I don't understand it either. But yeah, we're some softies down here compared to you guys. That's unbelievable what you guys do.
So it was such an honor. It was a total surprise, but such an honor to receive it from a guy like Dr. Goggins, and just so blessed to be where we are in life and to be part of just such an amazing group of people within Smile Doctors.
Perfect. Well, you talk some about, so how many patients do you guys see a day on average? What would you say?
About 150. So
okay, so you guys are hopping. You're hopping. On. Okay, so
we're busy. So I don't. So yeah. So run to the phone every time I get between patients to get social media postings or different things like that, because there's fortunate to have my wife on the team. She's not in the office, but she handles all of our great social media ideas. But that was the one thing that I really had to learn as we've grown, is you gotta be able to delegate some things, because it's impossible to do everything. And like you, when you start from zero, you don't want anybody to do anything but you, not because you can do it the best, but just, hey, why would I ask so-and-so to do it when I know I can do it in there? So certain things that we've had to give away, but certain things like our presence in town and our presence on social and whatnot are things that my wife and I still fully handle, because I always want the messaging to come from us. So other than a nonstop grinding through 150 patients a day and a quick run back to my perch to make sure I'm getting social active, it's busy days, but my excitement on the patient at 4:30 is the same as my excitement on the patient at 6:50, and not the excitement because I'm ready to leave at 4:45, but I'm excited to hear how their day went and what they've got planned for that night.
Right. That's great. So, so you talk about the office and then you get home. So as you mentioned, like that's a big thing. We have a lot of orthodontists who talk about that, because you do give so much of yourself every day to connect with people on a deep level. And then you're home and it is tiring. It's a lot to like emotionally as well as physically, just going around the office. I know we'll get close 10, 15,000 steps in a day easily. What in a small office, right? So you're just back and forth, pinballing all around. Talk to me about your family. So then what does your day look like that? And how do you engage your family? How do you engage your kids? Right.
And so as we were talking, my kids are 9, 4, and 1. So the best years of life, but the busiest years, the busiest practice years, the busiest family years, and starting to get into sports. And we're rarely home, and from the office to the skating rink or to the tennis courts or anything like that. And it's finding that balance to make sure that life rolls on outside of the practice, and that you can be as present there as you are at work. And I really meant it when I said I fail at that. But if we don't fail at things, we never grow. And that's something that I work on every day. And something that my wife tries to teach me, and we're stubborn, right? I mean, we as orthodontists, we are stubborn individuals in there, because we're very regimented. A certain regiment of things got us to this point. And sometimes it's hard to turn that, well, I need to be fully present for my business and our office and our community 7 days a week. But if you're like that, then you lose sight of, hey, what got you there? Your family got you there. And they're the ones that make sure that everything is rolling at home while you're able to do what you love. And I went to, as a motivational speaker as part of an orthodontic conference, and I never forgot this. I don't do this well yet. Like I said, I work on this every day. But that person said to the group, and it stuck with me, and he said that, think of how hard you push in every consultation. And it hit me hard. And he said, you would do anything to sell that case. You know, you will be, when I was first starting, a little more difficult with the family, but whether it was a musical or this, that, any patient that told me to get to, and I still try as hard as I can, but I was there for them because I knew it meant something to them. So think of what you would do to sell an orthodontic case. You would do anything because you want to see your practice grow, but you want to outdo your colleagues in town, and you know that you can provide a great experience and you want that patient. It's the internal hunger. It's the drive in us every day. He said, think about what you put into that, and think if you only put a fraction of that effort into your family, the effort that you put into each consultation, think of what you would mean to your family. And it still gives me goosebumps thinking about that, because that hit me hard, because I know I will give anything in every consultation. And I know how challenging it is when I get home to give that same level of effort, not the same level of love, but the same level of effort in there. And that's what pushes me each day to be better in business, of course, but way more important on the family side. And I think about that every time when I'm failing. I think about what that speaker said, and that pushes me when I get home to be more present. And it pushes all of us. And it doesn't matter what career you're in. Every job is work. You know, that there's no doubt about it, because if it wasn't work, everyone would do it. And that push, but that push is what gets me to the next day. And I love it.
Yep. No, one of my favorite quotes is, there's two types of pain. There's the pain of discipline and there's the pain of regret. And I choose the pain of discipline as much as I can, right? I have a ton of pain and regret, but that's kind of what I've learned, those lessons, hopefully to a certain degree, to where I'm like, ooh, I will choose the pain of discipline, especially when it comes to relationships or connecting at a deeper level with my kids. Because man, in a blink, your kids are out of the house. Everybody says that, you know, the days go slow, the years go fast. However it is, because you do get home from practice and you are tired and you want to just take a quick breather on the couch, or, you know, or do whatever that is. And your kids are excited. They've waited all day to be with dad and to be hanging out and show their thing or whatever it is, their coloring activity they did at school, or, you know, jump around on the couch, throw the ball, do whatever. And I have to constantly go, okay, this will be gone. And I would give anything to have that back, you know, just for a day when I'm old and they're gone. And so, yeah, it's make the most of right now is what it is.
It's so true. My wife reminds me of this all the time, and you with a large family understand. I feel like my nights are spent doing laundry or picking up toys when we get home. And oftentimes I'll say to her, "Oh, Jenna, I can't believe I'm going to have to fold one more load or pick up one more thing of toys." And she always says to me, "But think about if you didn't have those toys to pick up, or think about if you didn't have that laundry to fold." And as I'm externally complaining, I'm internally thinking about those words, and it's so true. And what a great quote that you just shared. I'll choose discipline every day. We regret many things in life, but when given the choice, take that path.
So I have some fun questions I want to ask you. Let's start off with this one. So, what is your greatest fear?
I think my that's a tough one. I think my greatest fear was, is, and always will be being average. Because we're so driven. We're as entrepreneurs and as business owners and as team leaders and as tooth straighteners and every title in between that we might wear. We're motivated individuals to get to this level. And I think every day you're humbled in orthodontics, right? You're humbled by what the body can do with teeth, but you're humbled by the human spirit when you see it with patients. And every day when I see the patients, and I always think, oh man, I wish I could be the human that this person is in the chair, or I wish I could do what that person did. And my fear of just being average is what fuels me every day. And when I say average, I don't mean a better person than someone. Average of what I feel like you were meant to be, what you were meant to do. And that's what got me to orthodontics. And that's what made me want to do everything we do in the community, because I want to make sure that we give the amazing gift of what we're able to do in orthodontics to everyone in our community. And that's a tough fear. And it's something I deal with every day and struggle with every day, which in turn gives you the push to be better and better every day. And if you never stop grinding and if you never stop pushing, I think every day, the next day and the next day is better than the day before, because you're always reaching for something. And so I try to take that biggest fear and put it into an internal motivator for me.
Yeah. You just build on that. Yeah, I agree. It's always that consistency. Okay. What are you and your team known for?
I think it's what we tried to do from day one, when no one knew who we were and no one knew about the practice, was to be pillars in the community and to be that place that they saw our name and they saw what community meant to us. And I think that's what, in every team meeting that we have, the one consistency that I always try to tell people is that at the end of the day, what matters most to me and what I hope matters most to them when they're working on our patients or our guests in the practice is how they represent themselves to the community. And that is what drives me every day, what we're able to do and what we strive to do. And when I see, how the power of social media, and when I go on social media on many of these, we'll say mom's throwdowns. Hey, can someone recommend an orthodontist? And we have a great orthodontist in my town. And it's like it's a war amongst these people as they're going. And what I love is seeing them shout out our team members. They don't talk about me. They don't say that Dan is great. They say his team is amazing. I love how so-and-so treated me. I love what they do in the community. Have you seen their practice? They are on everything. If you need anything, you go to them. They will help you. They will help. And that's what I wanted our practice to be known as. I wanted to be the place that, whether they had braces or not, that they knew that we were here to help. I'll tell you one thing, Scott, if I could, that I take a lot of pride in, is we love to do community events, because it's great for the community, but more so it's great for us as a team, because it brings our team together outside the grind of the office for them to see. I get to see what the impact of our practice does in the community every day, but they don't always get to see it together. And one thing that we do each summer is we rent out a big park in town, and we grill hot dogs, and we have food, and we have this, that, and the other. And we had thousands. I think last summer we had 1,500 people come over 2 hours. And the best part of that, Scott, that above the whole thing, was people were lined up for hour before we started serving food. And of the 1,500 people we treat, I bet you 1,450 of those people will never come through the doors of our office. But that was the only meal of the day for those people and their family. And that was the only time that summer that those kids were ever going to get into the park to play mini golf and to ride these rides and whatnot. And that is powerful. That is powerful, not just for me, but it is powerful for the team, and it's powerful for the community. And those are what I love, that our team has done a great job in saying, we need to do these things. Hey, did they want to be there until 10 o'clock at night doing these things and on Fridays and on Saturdays? No, they want to rest. They want to do, they want to be with their families. But the fact that we've got team buy-in that are willing to put in the extra hours because they know what it means to people, like, that's what orthodontics and our specialty, I think, is really all about. And that's what we've really taken a lot of pride in. And that's what gets me going. I love those kind of things.
Oh, that's awesome. No, yeah. So great. I love the impact that you're making. It's just such a difference, and people will remember, and you've inspired some kid. Maybe they can't get braces right now. maybe in the future they will. Hopefully at some level they've been touched to go, I'm going to pay this forward. And it's just beautiful, beautiful. So in your life, you've been at a crossroads, and where someone lifted you up and really spoke into you about this is what you could do with your life. And we're at that crossroads where, this is it. What would you want someone who is at their own crossroads right now, what would you want them to hear in your story for them?
I think for someone that's coming to a crossroads in life, and it could be in many different avenues, it's that follow your instinct, follow your gut, explore all the options. I tell this every day to kids in high school, especially ones towards the end that they don't know what they're going to do. I said, I didn't know what I was going to do until I was 22. My entire life changed. I said, you don't have to know, but what you need to find is your passion. You need to find what you're passionate about in life. Am I passionate about teeth? Yeah, I'm passionate about teeth. I love teeth, but I'm more passionate about people. I found that was my passion, and it led me to orthodontics. And I would encourage people that are at this crossroads in whatever juncture it might be in life is take the time, explore life, explore what fuels you inside, not outside, but what fuels you inside. Because if you can find that, and when you find that, that's what leads to the ultimate fulfillment in life. And your fulfillment emanates throughout your family, throughout your profession, throughout your community, and whatever it might be. And you don't need to make that decision tomorrow. I took the time to explore it. Everybody take the time to explore it, because that's what's going to lead you to the grind, and the grind and the grit is what leads to success, personally, professionally, and success breeds happiness.
What would you say is your motto?
Never stop going. Never stop dreaming. I think that's something that I think about always is I have dreams for our practice. I have dreams for life, dreams for my kids, dreams for myself, my wife, and family. And if you never stop dreaming, you never stop pushing. And it's that push that gets us to the next day and the next month, and that gets your kids to the next step, or your significant other, or your family, or your community, or whoever it might be. Never give up the dream of what you want to do in life and the impact you want to have on others, because it might be a huge impact on a community, and it might be an impact on one person. It's all the same. If you can impact one person in life, then you have fulfilled what you were here to do, because you can change the entire course. One guy changed the course of my life. One conversation. I found family. I found business. I found profession. I found community, but I found myself. And I would have never known that anything else was out there. And I would have been happy in life, and I would have been driven, and I would have grinded. But I wouldn't have found the personal fulfillment that I found through orthodontics and what we get to do, which led me to being here with you. It's amazing. It's amazing that one interaction can change your entire life. And so that's the challenge I always give to our staff. We just had a meeting yesterday with them about the same idea, because everything was fresh in my head. Thinking about today, I said, be that person, that the person in front of you in your chair, give them something to go out and tell their mom or tell their dad that you told them. Be that reason they go back and they think harder about the day, and not just about what colors they put on their teeth that day. It's powerful what we get to do, and that can get easily lost in 150 patients a day. But when you constantly remind yourself of where you've been, where you've come, and where you want to go, and you never stop dreaming, and you never stop looking forward, then you'll always do all you can to be the best version of yourself.
That's great, Dan. This has been a treat. Makes me want to just hang out, man. I want to drink whatever you're drinking for breakfast, and just go. It's so awesome. Just your impact, your influence, and it's just infectious. And so, thank you for all you do for everyone that you touch throughout the day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Todd. My pleasure to be here with you.